The morning sun had barely risen over the bustling streets of Atlanta when 7-year-old Marcus gripped his twin sister Maya's hand tighter than he ever had before. Their small fingers intertwined as they stood outside the massive glass building that seemed to touch the clouds. Marcus could see his reflection in the shiny windows, a tiny boy in worn sneakers and a faded shirt that used to belong to someone else at the shelter. Maya looked exactly like him, same round cheeks and wide brown eyes. But her shirt had a small tear near the collar that she tried to hide by pulling her shoulders forward. They had walked for almost 2 hours to get here. Their feet hurt and their stomachs growled with hunger, but they couldn't turn back now. Marcus had heard the other kids at the community center talking about Big Shaq, the famous rapper who grew up in their same neighborhood before making it big. They said he had an office in this very building, that sometimes he came here to work on his music and meet with important people. Marcus wasn't sure what he would say if he actually got to meet Big Shaq. He had practiced in his head 100 times during their long walk, whispering the words under his breath while Maya stayed quiet beside him. She was always the quiet one, letting Marcus do the talking for both of them. But right now, standing in front of these enormous doors with security guards inside, Marcus felt his courage shrinking. A woman in a business suit walked past them, her heels clicking on the pavement. She glanced at the twins but didn't stop. Marcus watched her disappear through the revolving doors, wondering if they would even let 2 kids like them inside. The building looked so clean, so perfect. He looked down at his shoes again, noticing the dirt caked on the sides from walking through the park shortcut. Maya tugged on his hand. She didn't say anything, but Marcus knew what she meant. They had come this far. They couldn't give up now. He thought about their situation, about Miss Carolyn at the shelter who tried her best but couldn't take care of all 23 kids who lived there. He thought about how they only got 1 meal most days, how Maya cried silently in her bunk bed at night when she thought he was asleep, how neither of them had been to school in 3 weeks because they didn't have proper clothes or supplies that their mother had left them at the shelter 6 months ago, promising she would come back once she found a job and a place to stay. But 6 months had turned into a long, lonely wait. Marcus remembered the day she walked away, remembered how she couldn't look them in the eyes, how her hands shook when she hugged them goodbye. He used to be angry about it, but now he just felt empty. At 7 years old, he had learned that sometimes adults made promises they couldn't keep. Taking a deep breath, Marcus pulled Maya forward toward the entrance. The revolving doors seemed intimidating, but he pushed through, feeling Maya's hand still locked with his. The lobby opened up before them like a palace. The floors were so shiny that Marcus could see the ceiling reflected in them. A massive chandelier hung in the center, and there were leather couches along the walls where people in expensive clothes sat tapping on their phones and laptops dot behind. A huge marble desk sat a security guard, a big man with kind eyes and a name tag that read Jerome. He looked up as the twins approached, his expression shifting from professional indifference to gentle concern. Marcus noticed how Jerome's eyes moved from their faces to their clothes to their worn-out shoes, taking in their whole story in just a few seconds. "Can I help you kids?" Jerome asked, his voice softer than Marcus expected. "Are you here with your parents?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. This was the moment he had been dreading. How could he explain their situation to this stranger? How could he make him understand without sounding pathetic? But then he felt Maya's hand squeeze his, a small gesture of support that gave him strength. "We're here to see Big Shaq," Marcus said, his voice coming out smaller than he intended. "Please, sir. It's really important." Jerome leaned back in his chair, studying them carefully. Marcus could tell he was trying to decide whether to take them seriously or send them away. The lobby felt suddenly very quiet, and Marcus became aware of other people looking at them now, curiosity on their faces. "Big Shaq doesn't usually see people without appointments," Jerome said gently. "And he's a very busy man. Why don't you tell me what this is about, and maybe I can help you?" Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. They were going to send them away. After walking all this way, after building up all this hope, they were going to fail before they even got started. He could feel tears threatening to spill from his eyes, but he blinked them back hard. He had to be strong for Maya. "Please," Marcus said again, his voice breaking slightly. "We just need 5 minutes. We walked here from the south side. We don't have anyone else to ask." Something in Jerome's expression changed. Maybe it was the desperation in Marcus's voice, or maybe it was the way Maya stood there so quietly, her big eyes filled with hope and fear at the same time. Jerome pulled out his phone and made a call. Turning slightly away from them as he spoke in low tones, Marcus couldn't hear what Jerome was saying, but he watched the security guard's face carefully, trying to read any sign of what might happen next. The minutes stretched out like hours. Maya leaned against Marcus's shoulder, and he could feel her getting tired. They had been up since 5 in the morning, planning this trip. Finally, Jerome hung up and looked back at them. "What are your names?" he asked. "I'm Marcus, and this is my sister Maya. We're twins." Jerome nodded slowly. "Well, Marcus and Maya, today might be your lucky day, Mr. Williams. That's Big Shaq's real name. He happens to be upstairs in the studio. I told his assistant about 2 kids who need to see him, and she said she'd ask him. But I need you to understand something. He might be too busy to see you. Even if he wants to help, he might not have time today. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded eagerly, hope flooding back into his chest. "Yes, sir. We understand. We'll wait as long as it takes." Jerome smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Tell you what, why don't you two sit over there on that couch while we wait to hear back? You look like you could use a rest?" The twins made their way to the leather couch Jerome had pointed to. Marcus had never sat on anything so comfortable in his life. The leather was soft and cool, and the cushions seemed to wrap around them like a gentle hug. Maya immediately curled up against his side, and Marcus could feel her body relaxing after their long journey. They waited for 30 minutes, though to Marcus it felt like days. He watched people come and go through the lobby, all of them looking important and purposeful. A woman in a red dress walked by talking loudly on her phone about a business deal. A man in a suit carried a briefcase so shiny that Marcus could see his distorted reflection in it. Everyone seemed to belong in this place except for them. Marcus started to worry that Big Shaq had said no, that they would have to walk all the way back to the shelter with nothing to show for their effort. He thought about what Miss Carolyn would say when they returned. She would probably be relieved, but also disappointed that they had left without telling anyone. The shelter had rules about kids leaving the building, but Marcus hadn't been able to help himself. This had felt like their only chance. Then Jerome's phone rang. He answered it quickly, listened for a moment, and then looked over at the twins with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. Jerome gestured for them to come back to the desk. "Okay, kids," Jerome said as they approached. "Mr. Williams will see you. But listen carefully. You'll go up to the 12th floor with my colleague Sam here. He'll take you to the studio. You need to be respectful and polite, okay? Mr. Williams is doing you a big favor by taking time out of his day." Marcus felt his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst out of his chest. "Yes, sir. We promise. Thank you so much." Sam, a younger security guard with a friendly smile, led them to the elevators. Maya pressed close to Marcus as they stepped inside. The elevator was all mirrors, and Marcus saw multiple reflections of him and his sister. 2 small kids who looked out of place in this world of luxury and success. As the elevator climbed higher, Marcus tried to think about what he would say. He needed to get it right. They might only have one shot at this, one chance to make Big Shaq understand why they needed help. His mind raced with possibilities, with different ways to explain their situation without sounding like he was begging. Even though that's exactly what he was doing, the elevator doors opened on the 12th floor, revealing a hallway with thick carpet and paintings on the walls. Sam led them down the corridor to a door marked Studio A. Through the door, Marcus could hear the faint thump of music, a beat that made the floor vibrate slightly under their feet. Sam knocked on the door and opened it slowly. The room beyond was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. There were computers and keyboards and speakers everywhere, screens showing colorful waves of sound. And in the center of it all sat Big Shaq himself, He was bigger in person than he looked on the music videos Marcus had seen on the old television at the community center. Big Shaq wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, gold chains around his neck catching the light from the overhead fixtures. He was working on something on the computer in front of him, but he turned around when they entered. Marcus felt frozen in place. This was really happening. They were act. Marcus took a shaky breath and began to speak. The words came slowly at first, then faster as he gained confidence. He told Big Shaq about their mother, about how she had worked 2 jobs trying to keep them fed and housed, about how she got sick and lost both jobs in the same month. He explained how they ended up at the shelter after their landlord changed the locks on their apartment, how their mother had promised to come back but never did. Big Shaq listened without interrupting, his full attention on Marcus. Occasionally his eyes would shift to Maya, who stayed quiet but nodded whenever Marcus said something important. As Marcus talked about their life at the shelter, about the overcrowding and the limited food and the nights when they went to bed hungry, he saw Big Shaq's jaw tighten. Miss Carolyn does her best, Marcus added quickly, not wanting anyone to think badly of the shelter director. But there's too many of us and not enough money. She tries really hard. But Maya and me, we can't keep going like this. We need to go to school. We need real clothes and shoes. Maya needs medicine for her asthma, but the shelter can't afford it. At the mention of asthma, Big Shaq's eyes sharpened. You have asthma, sweetheart? He asked Maya directly. Maya nodded, speaking for the first time since they arrived. Her voice came out soft and raspy. Sometimes I can't breathe good. It hurts in my chest. When was the last time you had an attack? Big Shaq asked, concern clear in his voice. 3 days ago, Marcus answered when Maya didn't respond. She woke up in the middle of the night coughing. It scared me real bad. Miss Carolyn had an old inhaler from another kid, but it was almost empty. It helped a little bit, but not much. Big Shaq stood up abruptly and walked across the room. For a moment, Marcus thought maybe they had said something wrong, maybe they had made him angry. But then Big Shaq turned back around, and Marcus could see that his eyes looked wet, like he was fighting back tears. How old are you two? Big Shaq asked, though his voice sounded different now, strained. 7. We turned 7 last month. Big Shaq closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, they were definitely wet. I had a little sister, he said quietly. She would have been about your age if she was still here. She had asthma too. The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of the studio equipment. Marcus didn't know what to say. He could feel the weight of Big Shaq's words, the pain behind them, even if he didn't fully understand what had happened. She died when I was 14, Big Shaq continued, his voice thick with emotion. We couldn't afford her medicine either. My mother worked herself into the ground trying to pay for it, but it was never enough. One night, Kaisha had a bad attack, worse than usual. We called for an ambulance, but by the time they got to our apartment on Parkview Avenue, it was too late. A single tear rolled down Big Shaq's cheek, and he didn't wipe it away. Marcus felt his own eyes filling up too, the sadness in the room so thick he could barely breathe. Next to him, Maya had started crying silently, tears streaming down her small face. That's why I do what I do, Big Shaq said, looking directly at the twins. That's why I made it out of that neighborhood and worked so hard to become successful. I promised myself that if I ever made it, I would help kids like my sister, like you two. Kids who deserve better than what this world is giving them. He walked back over and crouched down in front of them again. This time, he reached out and gently placed a hand on each of their shoulders. You were brave to come here today. You were brave to ask for help. A lot of people are too proud to ask, and they suffer in silence. But you two walked for 2 hours to get here because you knew you needed help, and you had the courage to seek it out. That takes strength. Marcus felt something break inside him, all the walls he had built up to stay strong for Maya, to stay strong for himself. The tears came hard and fast, and suddenly he was sobbing, all the fear and worry and exhaustion of the past 6 months pouring out of him. Maya was crying too, and before Marcus knew what was happening, Big Shaq had pulled both of them into a tight hug. They cried together in that studio. Three people connected by pain and poverty and the struggle to survive in a world that often didn't care. Big Shaq's shoulders shook as he held them, and Marcus realized that this famous rapper was crying just as hard as they were. It was the first time in months that Marcus felt like someone truly understood. Like someone actually cared about what happened to them. When the tears finally slowed, Big Shaq pulled back and wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He looked at the twins with a determined expression. Okay, listen to me carefully. What I'm about to tell you is important, and I need you both to understand that I mean every word. Marcus nodded, sniffling. Maya did the same. You're not going back to that shelter, Big Shaq said firmly. Not today, not ever, not unless you want to. I'm going to make some calls right now, and we're going to figure out a better situation for you. We're going to get Maya the medical care she needs immediately. We're going to get you both clothes, shoes, school supplies, everything. And we're going to find out what happened to your mother. You can do all that? Marcus asked, hardly daring to believe it. Big Shaq pulled out his phone. I can, and I will. I have resources, connections, people who owe me favors. More importantly, I have money, and I'm going to use it to change your lives. That's a promise. He started making calls right there in the studio. The first was to his personal assistant, a woman named Jennifer. Marcus could hear her voice through the phone, professional and efficient. Big Shaq explained the situation quickly, then started giving instructions. I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of today. Call Dr. Morrison and tell him I'm bringing a 7-year-old girl with asthma to his office within the hour. Tell him it's urgent and I don't care what appointments he has to move. Then call my lawyer. Marcus needs to talk to him about family law and child services. The next call was to someone Big Shaq called his right-hand man, a person named Devin. I need you to go to the children's clothing store on Peachtree and buy everything 2 7-year-olds might need. Clothes, shoes, coats, pajamas, everything. Get multiple sizes, we'll figure out what fits. And Devin? I need this done in the next 2 hours. Call after call, Big Shaq worked methodically through everything the twins needed. He called a social worker he knew, explaining the situation and asking for help navigating the system. He called the shelter and spoke to Miss Carolyn, who apparently started crying on the phone when she heard that Marcus and Maya were safe. He called a realtor friend about temporary housing options. Marcus watched in amazement as their entire future shifted in real time. This man who they had only met an hour ago was moving mountains for them, using his influence and resources to solve problems that had seemed impossible just that morning. Finally, Big Shaq put down his phone and turned back to them. Okay, here's what's going to happen. First, we're going to go see Dr. Morrison. He's the best pulmonologist in the city, which means he's a doctor who specializes in breathing problems. He's going to examine Maya and make sure she gets the medicine and treatment she needs. While we're doing that, my team is going to prepare everything else. What about Miss Carolyn? Marcus asked, worried about the shelter director who had tried so hard to help them. Is she mad we left? Big Shaq smiled gently. She's not mad. She's relieved you're safe. And she understands why you did what you did. I'm going to help the shelter too, make a donation so she can take better care of the other kids there. But you two, you're getting out of that situation. Where will we go? Maya asked quietly, her voice still raspy from crying. I'm working on that, Big Shaq said. I have a few ideas, but I promise you'll be somewhere safe, somewhere comfortable, somewhere you can just be kids again. You've had to grow up too fast. It's time someone took care of you for a change. They left the studio together, Big Shaq walking between them with a protective hand on each of their backs. In the elevator, Marcus caught sight of their reflection in the mirrors. They looked the same as they had on the way up, 2 small kids in worn clothes. But somehow everything felt different now. They weren't alone anymore. Jerome was still at his desk when they came through the lobby. His eyes widened when he saw Big Shaq walking with the twins, and a huge smile spread across his face. Big Shaq paused at the security desk and shook Jerome's hand. Thank you for letting them up, Big Shaq said. You made the right call. Jerome nodded, looking at the twins with pride. I had a feeling about these two. Glad I listened to my gut. Outside, a sleek black car was waiting. Big Shaq opened the back door and helped the twins inside. The seats were leather, even softer than the couch in the lobby. Marcus had never been in a car this nice before. Maya pressed her face against the window, watching the city pass by as they drove through downtown. Atlanta, the doctor's office, was in a tall building made entirely of glass. Inside, everything was clean and modern, with plants in the corners and soft music playing from hidden speakers. A nurse led them to an examination room immediately. No waiting required. Dr. Morrison arrived moments later. A kind-faced older man with gray hair and gentle hands, he examined Maya carefully, listening to her lungs with a stethoscope and asking questions about her symptoms. Marcus held his sister's hand the entire time, and Big Shaq stood nearby. Marcus and Maya sat close together on the hotel couch, full from dinner, but nervous about what Big Shaq was going to say. Their new clothes felt stiff and strange after months of wearing the same worn outfits. Maya held her new inhaler in one hand, something Dr. Morrison had shown her how to use. She kept looking at it like she couldn't believe it was real. Big Shaq leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. My lawyer is working on finding your mother. We have some leads already. But here's what I need you to understand. Even when we find her, the situation might be complicated. She left you at that shelter for 6 months, and while I believe she probably had her reasons, the law takes that seriously. Child Protective Services might get involved. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Does that mean they'll split us up? No, Big Shaq said firmly. I won't let that happen. You two stay together, no matter what. That's non-negotiable. What I want to talk to you about is your living situation going forward. I've been thinking about this all afternoon, and I have a proposal. He pulled out his phone and showed them pictures of a house. It wasn't a mansion, but it was beautiful, with a big front yard and a swing set in the back. The rooms were painted in bright colors, and there were toys and books visible in the photos. This is a home I own on the north side of the city, Big Shaq explained. I bought it a few years ago with the intention of turning it into a place where kids in need could stay temporarily while their situations got sorted out. But I never got around to setting it up properly. I was too busy with my music career, always traveling, always working. I kept making excuses about why it wasn't the right time. He swiped through more photos, showing them bedrooms and a kitchen and a backyard with a treehouse. But meeting you two today reminded me why I bought this place in the first place. It reminded me of my promise to help kids like my sister. So here's what I'm proposing. I want to hire a full-time caregiver, someone kind and experienced, to live in this house and take care of you. You'll have your own rooms, you'll go to a good school in the neighborhood, and you'll have everything you need. Jennifer has already found someone perfect for the job, a woman named Mrs. Patterson who used to be a foster parent. She raised 5 kids of her own and has been looking for a way to help more children. Marcus couldn't speak. He looked at the photos at this house that could be their home, and it seemed too good to be true. But why would you do all this for us? You just met us today. Big Shaq's eyes grew distant, looking at something Marcus couldn't see. Because 20 years ago, I was a kid in your exact situation. I was hungry and scared and didn't know if things would ever get better. Someone helped me. A teacher at my school noticed I was struggling and connected my family with resources we didn't know existed. She paid for my sister's medicine out of her own pocket for months until we could get proper assistance. She believed in me when I had no reason to believe in myself. He refocused on the twins. That teacher's name was Mrs. Patterson, same name as the woman I want to hire to take care of you, though they're not related. Funny how life works sometimes. Anyway, Mrs. Patterson from my childhood saved my life. She's passed away now, but I never forgot what she did for me and my family. I promised myself that when I made it, when I had the money and the means, I would be that person for someone else. Today, you two walked into my studio, and it felt like the universe was giving me a chance to keep that promise. Maya spoke up, her voice small but clear. What if our mama comes back? What if she wants us back? Big Shaq reached over and gently took Maya's hand. If your mama comes back and if she's in a position to take care of you properly, then we'll work something out. But sweetheart, even if that happens, it won't happen overnight. These things take time. In the meantime, you need stability. You need to be in school. You need to be healthy. And if your mama does come back and proves she can provide a good home, I'll help her too. I'll make sure she has job training, housing assistance, whatever she needs to get back on her feet. Because I don't think she's a bad person. I think she's someone who got overwhelmed by circumstances beyond her control. Marcus felt tears building again, but these were different from the tears he had cried earlier. These were tears of relief, of hope, of gratitude, so overwhelming he didn't have words for it. You really mean all of this? This isn't a dream? Big Shaq smiled, but his own eyes were wet too. It's not a dream. Tomorrow morning we're going to meet Mrs. Patterson at the house. If you like her and feel comfortable, we'll start the process of moving you in. Jennifer is already working with social services to make sure everything is legal and proper. It's going to take a little bit of paperwork, but I have good lawyers and we're going to make this happen. That night, Marcus and Maya slept in real beds for the first time in 6 months. The sheets were soft and clean, and the pillows were so comfortable that Marcus sank into them like clouds. Maya had her own room, but halfway through the night, Marcus heard his door open softly. His sister climbed into bed with him, something she used to do when they first arrived at the shelter and were scared of their new surroundings. "Marcus?" she whispered in the darkness. "Yeah? Do you think Mama is okay?" Marcus thought about this carefully. He had been angry at their mother for so long, but Big Shaq's words had changed something in his perspective. Maybe she hadn't abandoned them because she didn't love them. Maybe she had been drowning in problems too big to solve and thought they would be better off without her dragging them down. "I think Mama did what she thought was best," Marcus said quietly. "I think she was scared and didn't know what else to do. But now we have people helping us, and maybe they can help her too." "I miss her," Maya admitted, her voice catching. "Me too," Marcus said, surprised to find it was true. Despite everything, despite the hurt and the fear, he missed his mother. He missed the way she used to sing to them at bedtime, missed her laugh, missed the feeling of her arms around him. But we're going to be okay now. Big Shaq is going to help us, and maybe he can help Mama too. Maya snuggled closer. "He's nice. He reminds me a little bit of Mama, the way she used to be before everything got bad." Marcus understood what his sister meant. There was a kindness in Big Shaq that felt familiar, a gentleness that reminded him of better times. He held Maya close, listening to her breathing even out as she fell asleep. For the first time in months, Marcus felt safe enough to truly rest. The next morning, Big Shaq picked them up early. They ate breakfast together at the hotel restaurant, and then they drove to the house Big Shaq had shown them in the photos. Seeing it in person was even better than seeing pictures. The grass in the front yard was green and neatly trimmed. Flowers grew in beds along the walkway. The house itself was painted a cheerful yellow with white trim. Mrs. Patterson was waiting on the front porch. She was a round woman with gray hair pulled back in a bun and the kindest eyes Marcus had ever seen. When she smiled, her whole face lit up, and Marcus immediately felt drawn to her warmth. "You must be Marcus and Maya," she said, coming down the porch steps to meet them. "I've been so excited to meet you. Mr. Williams has told me all about how brave you are." She shook both their hands formally, treating them with a respect Marcus wasn't used to from adults. Then she knelt down so she was at their level, just like Big Shaq had done in the studio. "I want you to know something right away. This house is your home for as long as you need it. You're not guests. You're not temporary. While you're here, this is your safe place. You make the rules about your own space. If you want privacy, you get privacy. If you need to talk, I'm here to listen. And if you just want to be kids and play and have fun, that's what we'll do." She showed them through the house, and Marcus fell in love with it immediately. His bedroom had blue walls and a bed shaped like a race car. There was a bookshelf filled with books and a desk where he could do homework. Maya's room was purple, her favorite color, with a canopy bed and stuffed animals arranged on shelves. The bathroom between their rooms had 2 sinks, one for each of them, Downstairs, the kitchen was big and bright with a table where they could all eat together. The living room had comfortable couches and a television. Out back, the yard stretched out with that swing set Marcus had seen in the photos, plus a sandbox and a basketball hoop. "I used to play basketball right here when I was your age," Big Shaq said, bouncing an imaginary ball. "I spent hours practicing in my driveway, dreaming about making it to the NBA. Obviously, that didn't work out. But the determination I learned from practicing helped me in my music career." Mrs. Patterson made them lunch. Sandwiches with chips and fruit, and they ate at the kitchen table. She asked them about their favorite foods so she could stock the kitchen properly. She asked about their interests and hobbies, about what made them happy. Unlike the rushed, distracted conversations at the shelter where Miss Carolyn was always being pulled in 10 different directions, Mrs. Patterson gave them her full attention after lunch. Big Shaq pulled Marcus aside while Maya and Mrs. Patterson were looking at toys in the garage. They sat together on the back porch steps, looking out at the yard where birds were singing in the trees. "I need to go back to work soon," Big Shaq said. "I have a tour starting next month, and I'll be traveling a lot. But I want you,"